The second faction rally of Season 3 of Destiny 2 has started this week, and I thought this would be a good time to go over my thoughts and sort of opinions and feedback for faction rallies in Season 3. There's quite a big difference between Season 3's version of faction rallies and Season 1 and 2's versions, so I'm going to go over kind of like the gameplay history of faction rallies quickly, and then I'm going to give my thoughts and what I think could be improved about the current faction rallies in Season 3. I didn't play Destiny 1 all that much, but I believe the factions were a permanent thing in that game, so you could progress through each faction at your preferred rate, I guess. So there wasn't like any faction rallies from what I understand, it was basically just factions are there all the time and you can progress through it at your own rate. This is something that people are asking for in Destiny 2 now, however I think this could be incorporated into Destiny 2's current design of faction rallies and make it better than Destiny 1 and Destiny 2's versions. Faction rallies were added into Destiny 2 as what I can imagine as a replacement for factions in Destiny 1. They used to be basically just a timed event which happened for 1 week throughout a month or whatever, and a season for Destiny 2 usually lasts a couple months between DLCs. There was 3 or 4 faction rallies every month, or every season, and they only lasted for a week, and they were essentially just the turning on of 3 vendors: New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, and Future War Cult, those vendors, and you basically pledged one of your characters to whatever faction you wanted. You could pledge whatever character to whatever faction. It wasn't account based, it was character based. So you could have your Titan for Future War Cult, and then you could have your Hunter for Dead Orbit and your Warlock for New Monarchy if you really wanted to. They were basically just 3 vendors which were activated for a week, and you got tokens for doing public events and lost sectors and that sort of thing. And from what I understand, there wasn't really anything special about them. It was basically as gear sets and shaders and that sort of thing. I don't think you really got anything exclusive or anything like that. Obviously they give some good weapons, like good legendary weapons, but I don't think there's anything like exotic or something, or any real reason to grind factions in Season 1 and 2. Bungie then changed faction rallies for Season 3, and I think it was a pretty good change because there's now a renown system, and with the introduction of exotic weapon catalysts, each faction now has 1 exotic catalyst. So Dead Orbit has the Graviton Lance, Future War Cult has the Sunshot, and New Monarchy has the Sweet Business. Dead Orbit won the first faction rally of Season 3, which I believe is just because people really wanted the Graviton Lance catalyst, because it got a really big buff with Warmind. And then this week, hopefully it'll be Future War Cult, and then next week it might be New Monarchy, or might be a toss-up between Dead Orbit and Future War Cult. Essentially how it works now is that you go up ranks with your factions, so you have to get to rank 50 in order to get the exotic catalyst, and that requires 1,000 tokens. The renown system does help quite a bit with this, because if you do public events or you do patrols or kill high value targets when you're patrolling an area just on a planet or whatever, you'll gain renown, and as your renown goes up you'll get more tokens from looting a lost sector. A public event will give you 3 renown, and with the full gear set of your faction will give you 4 renown, and then a patrol and a high value target will give you 1 renown. If you loot a lost sector with 0 renown, with no renown at all, you'll get 1 token. If you loot it with 1 renown, you get 2 tokens, 2 renown you get 3 tokens, 3 renown you get 4 tokens, then if you get 4 renown you'll get 8 tokens, and 5 renown will give you 10 tokens. So the most efficient way to do this is really just get 4 renown and then loot a lost sector. If you do manage to get 5 renown really easily, then do that, and if you can do it really quickly, then do that as a lost sector. Loot a lost sector of 5 renown, obviously you'll get the most for that. But usually it's quicker just to do a public event with a full gear set of your faction gear and then do a lost sector and keep just repeating that, because you'll get stuff done quicker. And usually you'll get more tokens for doing 2 of those than just going for a patrol and then doing it. If you want to try to grind faction rallies as quick as possible, the way to do it is essentially just go to Titan, do a public event with your full gear set, and then loot a lost sector. Preferably the one on the rig, which is, it's kind of hard to describe. Look up a video or something, go on Reddit, because there's plenty of guides there. You should be able to see it in the video, where it's basically just a lost sector off the side of the rig on the Titan, and if you do a public event, go in there. It's really quick. It's literally 1 room with an ogre, and you can just like shotgun him to death, and then you can get the tokens and then just fast travel back out to another public event. So it works pretty well and it's really quick. The other alternative is go to the EDZ and do the lost sector in Devrim's Castle in Devrim's Church, because that's the easiest one in the game. So yeah, and it's pretty quick as well, and it's a good change from the Titan one because it can get pretty monotonous. Personally, I think that having exotic catalysts are a good idea for factions. However, it really means that people are doing the factions not for the shaders or the gear that they have, it's really just for the exotic catalyst, which I guess is okay, but it kind of reduces the sort of lore behind the factions, so people aren't really choosing the factions based off of their lore, they're kind of doing it based off of what they're going to get from playing for the faction or whatever, or, pledging to the faction. Which personally I think that's okay, but I'm sure some people have some sort of objection to that. I think the way to improve this faction rally though is I've seen a lot of complaints about it being too short, and you have to go up 50 ranks in 1 week, and people are spending all of their free time doing this. And I'm okay now because I'm off for summer, so I've got plenty of time to grind faction rallies and all that. However, for the average person who comes home from work and maybe only has an hour or two of free time, they're gonna have to spend all of their free time, all of that week, in order to actually get the faction rallies done and get the exotic catalyst. There are 3 catalysts, and I understand that they're probably not going to switch out the catalyst in Season 4 or something. They're probably going to keep them in, and I highly doubt they're going to just remove them altogether. I doubt they're like Season 3 catalyst next month, or next season even, they're going to have different catalysts for the factions. I highly doubt that. I've been seeing a lot of complaints from people saying that, people don't want to have to grind faction rallies all week, they want to actually do other stuff with their free time. It could be something as simple as, a new game comes out during one of the faction rallies and people want to play that game. But then they're like, oh, but if I play that game then I miss out on the faction rally stuff in Destiny, in Destiny 2. So I think the main way to fix this is either 1, increase the faction rallies to being 2 weeks. So you've got the renown system active for 2 weeks, and you can grind faction rallies for 2 weeks, and I think that's really the best way to do it. However, another way to do it, which I'd seen suggested, was have renown only active for 1 week, however make factions permanent. So still have faction rallies happening, however you can still gain tokens for your factions all the time, so you can pledge to Dead Orbit or something, and then you can get tokens the entire time you're playing. However, the renown system is not active, so you'll still get tokens for doing strikes and crucible and stuff. However, if you loot a lost sector you'll only get 1 token, and the renown won't be active for doing public events until like the week of the faction rally at least, and then the faction rallies progress as normal, but you can still gain tokens for your faction like all the time essentially. Because I think faction rallies are a good thing to have in the game, and I do like them, and I like the whole aspect of trying to get a faction to win the faction rallies. However, I feel as though having a permanent or increasing it to 2 weeks would make it better. By permanent I mean having the ability to actually earn tokens all the time, but only have renown active for 1 week when the faction rally usually happen, and still have the winning sort of aspect be a thing for that week, is essentially what I mean. So encouraging people to do faction rallies and get tokens for 1 week, essentially what faction rallies are at the moment, just have the ability to earn tokens all the time. Even though it'll be significantly slower, it doesn't really affect people, or it doesn't really make people want to new life the game, I guess, and be forced to new life the game. So I feel like that's probably the best way to do it. Personally, I'm okay with faction rallies at the moment. I'm not too concerned about, free time or whatever, because I'm off for summer now. However, I understand people do have jobs and that sort of thing, so it can be quite stressful for them, and I think one of the 2 solutions are probably the best thing, and Bungie have acknowledged this. They've said they are taking this up into consideration, and it most likely will be changed in the future, so you don't really have to worry there. Also, Future War Cult's never won a faction rally, so if you are one of the other factions, I was Future War Cult the last faction rally, and Dead Orbit won, so I'm Dead Orbit now because I want to grab it on Lance Catalyst. So if you are like Dead Orbit or New Monarchy, please just don't turn in your tokens until next week. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get the full gear set for Dead Orbit, and then I'm not going to turn in any of my tokens after that until next week, because I really want the Future War Cult to win. Because apparently their gun's pretty good, and we've never heard them actually say something about being the winner, because they've never won before, so it'd be quite cool to see that happen. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, maybe subscribing, and I'll see you next. Bye.